So hello all and welcome, and I am the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher. And in this video, I would like to talk about Melissa Purslane, the post-wall baby regret chick. And she wrote a story about a month back that I covered, and just recently, like within a few days, she posted a video, which you can see right now on the screen. That's just a clip. The whole video is like 6-7 minutes or something, responding to the response that she got from her story that I first talked about a month ago. You can find that video in my videos on my channel. Don't have to go back too far. And now she's written another story as a response to the responses to her response, I suppose you would say. And she gives us a little bit more background information, a little more information about her life, as well as where she is now in current days. And it's very entertaining. By the way, even if she saw this story, I don't think she'd learn anything from it. A woman like this, I'm not sure what's going on here, because she's, I don't know, for somebody who's posting this much within just like a month period. She posts a story, then a follow-up in response to responses, and then another follow-up to her follow-up. It seems like she's trying to become the new, I don't know, Amy Horton, or the new Jana Hawking or something. If you don't know who those people are, you can look them up online. They are, in my view, kind of similar to a lolcow. I mean, they're kind of a joke. They're essentially milking their own personal lives in regards to the bad choices they've made. Kind of like the attitude with, well, I'm in a bad situation due to my own decisions. Might as well milk it for all it's worth, right? And they seem to be doing pretty well, so maybe she's trying to become the new Amy Horton or something. I don't know, telling us about the vicissitudes of her life and the bad choices that she's made, as if that's going to help. No, you're just advertising to the world that you are somebody that men should avoid. But even still, if this is giving her what she wants, which is probably attention, which she hopes will translate into cashola from the media buying her videos or stories, or whatever, it's still good for me to comment on this stuff, because it's a lesson. It's a lesson to you men out there, and women as well, who are willing to hear it. So let's jump right into this recent story from, well, today, shall we? So, and there is going to be a little knowledge, a little information that we already know, okay? That's just to give people context who are not familiar with her prior work. So bear with me, because there might be stuff in this, information that we already know that's being stated that we don't know, and I don't want to leave anything out, because it could be important later. So just be patient. Okay. So a woman said she felt betrayed by feminism after deciding she wanted to settle down. Yeah, she decided like at 38. Because she started getting less attention from men. Of course, you've seen this trend quite often. Women start to lose that validation, lose that attention. They're swiping. Is that swiping right? I don't know. I think it's swiping right. Never use Tinder. And they're not getting nearly as much attention from dudes. They're not getting nearly as many replies from the guys that they're swiping right on. And even when they do, it either doesn't turn into anything like a date, or even if it does, they're just banging and then heading for the hills. Which they did before, but at least then they sticked around for a while and pretended they gave a damn in exchange for getting a little poon. But now that she's getting older, got a new generation of young chickies coming up that are stealing the attention of the guys that she wants away from her. So, yeah, now it's amazing that only when that attention goes away, only when that validation disappears, only when the opportunity to get that feeling in her stomach, the butterflies, only then does she want to settle down. It's so interesting how it's almost always at the exact same time for all women that this occurs. At one point during the interview with Fox News Digital, she's got to be getting paid for this. Wait, how much do you think she's making? She's doing an interview with Fox News Digital. Yeah, this is all about money, right? She's putting all these stories out to make money. Yeah. And why is Fox News publishing this stuff? Because now that Tucker Carlson has gone from Fox News, we know it's just another libtard, lefty, propaganda outlet posing as right wing to make the conservative dullards out there think they actually have a voice and somebody championing their cause was their best interests at heart, when really Fox News is captured. It's a controlled opposition, and that's all it is. So she's got to be getting paid something. So she's trying to spin her bad life choices into money. Yeah. At one point in the interview with Fox News Digital, she broke down crying, describing how she feared she would end up alone and childless. Yeah, so she recently wrote an essay for Business Insider. That's the one I initially wrote a story on about a month ago. 38 and single, I recently realized I want a child. Right, when you're getting too old to have one, or when you're not getting the attention from men anymore that would, allow that to be likely. Although I'll tell you that it was never likely. It was just an illusion that it was likely, so that these guys could get poon. That's all, honey. I'm terrified. I've missed my opportunity. Yeah. It went viral back in November. Yeah. Hate began to pour in. Oh, of course. Yeah. BS. From men telling her she's lived a selfish life person. Oh, it was hate. You sure it wasn't tough love? No, it had to be hate because it was telling a woman what she didn't want to hear. We all know that's always hate. At least via her perceptions. And of course, as we all know, perception is reality, right? Yeah, no, it's not. If you're a relativist, you think it is, but it's still not. Men telling her that she's lived a selfish life, she had a much different account of her story. Oh, so it wasn't a selfish life. She has a much different accounting. Oh, okay. Do tell. So we heard about her backstory a bit in my first story on her, but she goes into more detail here, I think. So when she was 22, she married a traditional man, those evil trad men, and moved to a rural community in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where she grew up. So she was in her hometown where she grew up that she met this dude? So it was the old, I want to get out of the hometown, small town. Oh, there's so much more out there in the world. That grass has got to be greener on the other side, and I want to see just how green it can be. Yeah. How green is it now? Huh? Melissa, not so green. Yeah. He wanted a simple life with children and home-cooked meals. Sounds pretty good. I like home-cooked meals. Yeah, but I was having you cook them. And by that point, I had learned that cooking meals for a man, well, that made me a slave, so I resented him for that. Of course you did. However, personally, despite coming from a religious Christian background, she's got divorced parents. I don't know how Christian they are. Christian name only, self-identifying Christians, but I wonder how much they actually went to church. They certainly didn't live the Christian lifestyle. Made it clear to her husband-to-be that she did not want children. Okay, so he shouldn't have married her. So the mistake he made as the young him at 20, 22, whatever, maybe he was a little older, was to marry her in the first place. Guys, let me give you a life lesson here. If two people are going to get together and get married, and I don't recommend you ever get married in the West, it's just the system is far too tilted in women's favor. It's way too risky. The divorce rate is much higher than you actually hear. So that would be a bad idea. But even if you're going to get into a relationship, even if you're going to consider getting with someone for a short-term period of time, or at all, you need to have things in common. And some of the biggies, especially if you're planning on having a family, even if you're not going to get married, and don't have a family with a Western chick either, by the way. But if you're going to do that, you got to have a lot of things in common. And one of those things would be her wanting kids in the first place. If you want them. Why would you marry somebody if you want kids and they don't? You think they're going to change their mind? You think they could change their mind? You can't change other people. These are lessons people should learn in school and from their church and such. But of course, as we all know, they don't teach anything useful or practical in school. As for churches, well, I think it would depend on the church. I was raised Catholic, and I don't remember learning any useful lessons, going to religious school on Sundays for all those years, let alone from church. So, yeah. So this would have to come from the parents, practical lessons like these. It doesn't seem like these parents did a very good job. So she didn't want kids. Yeah, okay. At the time, I felt strongly I did not want children. Okay. Yeah. So, by the way, why did you marry him? You going to take any accountability? I mean, you didn't want kids and he did. You should have seen that was a deal breaker. That I wasn't going to be like the traditional housewife. So he was traditional. You were not traditional. Wow. I see lots of red flags here and lots of compatibility issues. I knew I did want to pursue a career. Oh, Lord have mercy. So we're going back like 22. She's 39 now, 38, 16, 17 years. Is that around the time a certain TV show was very popular? S in the City. We all know that show, right? I don't remember what years it was on, but it was kind of during that time, early, mid-2000s, mid to late 2000s. Well, I don't know if it was, if the show made it into the later 2000s. I don't know, but that period, it was very popular, and that kind of mindset was very popular as well. The S in the City mindset, you know. So I knew I wanted to pursue a career in the big city. Of course, she told Fox News Digital in an interview. And I felt very strongly that that would never change. I guess I was wrong. I guess you were. Yeah. What really happened was she went to the city, she got the education, she got the career, and she found that it didn't fulfill her. Right? She thought that that would be able to take the place of kids and it would offer her more fulfillment, more meaning in her life, and it turned out to be a total, complete lie. And she actually realized that. The only which is fair. Actually, most women will never even have that realization. They'll just double and triple and quadruple down in every single facet of their lives. She had that realization, at least. The only problem is her preferences and her standards, her standards more importantly, her standards didn't change. And let me tell you something. She's actually not a bad looking broad. The video I just did on her and the pictures really don't do her justice. You'll get a better idea what she looks like if you look at the first video I did of her. She's actually a pretty good looking broad. I'd say maybe, not great looking, but she's pretty good looking. I mean, I'd say a 7, maybe. If she dolls herself up and wears makeup, and she looks like she's put on a little weight now, so maybe she could be a 7.5 if she, lost a little of the extra, junk in the trunk. But she's not a bad-looking chick. So, yeah. But anyway, she did not change her standards, right? She didn't look at the fact that she's getting older, she's not really fertile anymore, that what's important to men are looks. She didn't have those realizations. Just the realization that a career couldn't take the place of a family. Okay, well, you see, they both got to go together. Okay, you got to have both those realizations to get what you want in regards to a husband and a family, at least in a timely manner. Right? You got to change your wants. She didn't do that. Anyway, Purslane said both her and her ex thought that love could conquer everything. I don't know what that, I don't even know what that means. I mean, how does love conquer you being completely different people with completely different wants and goals and desires? I mean, those are like deal breakers. You love each other, but you're very different people. Opposites might attract at times, but they don't work in the long term. It can create some interesting friction in the short term, beneath the sheets, as it were. But it doesn't work. That's saying that the opposites attract. There might be some truth to that, but they don't last. But after 10 years, she was married to him for 10 years. Wow. Why would you spend 10 years with somebody that you have diametrically opposed values to? So values and virtues. So virtues are one thing. They might share some of the same virtues, but they don't value the same things. Okay? You've got to have both in a relationship for it to work. You can have a lot in common. Actually, you can have a lot in common. Maybe they do have quite a bit in common in terms of virtues, but they clearly didn't have much in common in regards to values, and you have to have both. Otherwise, the relationship is doomed to fail. And they tried for 10 years. Wow. It was clear their differences in life goals, the things they valued that would lead to fulfillment and meaning and legacy, purpose, that just were too opposed, diametrically opposed in that sense. Well, why did she even get married then in the first place? Where was their priest, by the way? She said that her family was religious and he was religious. Didn't they have a priest? Didn't they go to a priest and talk? Aren't they supposed to be like religious counselors in a church who sit down with you and discuss your wants and the other person's wants, and, you know, they'll say to you in a based way, hey, look, you guys don't match. These are fundamental, foundational aspects of a marriage that you're not matching up on, so you really shouldn't get married. What about the parents? Why weren't the... It seems like a lot of people failed these kids. I mean, they were kids at the time. They're still kids to me now, to be honest. But after 10 years, it was clear that differences in life goals were irreconcilable. Excuse me. Personally said she became resentful. See, I called it. I ain't read this story, by the way. This new one that she just wrote as a response to the response she made in response to the responses that she got. To her prior response. Personally, Aiden said she became resentful when he would ask for dinner or for his laundry to be done. But that's what you agreed to when you got married, right? So did they even do the bare minimum where they sat down and outlined their duties in the marriage? Doesn't sound like it. Was she working full time? Was he working full time? Who was the breadwinner? Were you both bringing in equal amounts of money? Was he bringing in more money? Were you also working, but he was making a lot more, a little more? Did you sit down, do the math? Okay, I make 60% more, or I make 60% of the household income, you make 40%, so you should be doing X amount more of the household chores than I am doing. And here are those chores, and she might say, I don't like this chore, and he'll like be, okay, I can do that, and then I don't like this one, so you can do that one. And then you divvy up the household chores to an extent where they're pretty evenly distributed along the lines of what each person makes. So she's doing 40% of the household chores, he's doing 60. And if he makes 80% of the income and she makes 20, and she's contributing, now see, this is more important still, she's contributing 20% to the overall household expenditure, then she would have to do 80% of the chores and he's 20. It's not just about how much each makes, but how much they contribute as a whole to the household. So these are the kind of discussions you should be having before you get married. Not to mention what your values and your virtues are, because it's a very serious decision. And of course, these two kids at the time clearly didn't know this, and for some reason nobody taught them these things or sat them down and had these very important talks with them. So they had the very Disney fairy tale idea that love will conquer all. Anyway, let's continue. I did little to hide my disdain for our small town life. I don't understand that. I would love to live in a small town. I kind of grew up in a small town. I would love to live in a small town again and be able to make a living there. But that's not feasible at the moment. But I mean, what's the problem with the small town? They didn't have a Starbucks? You couldn't get some rude, petulant teenage barista to give you an overpriced coffee? What exactly is wrong with a small town, yo? I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think she might have a problem with a small town, but I mean, is that it? There weren't enough people. There wasn't enough crime and dirt and human feces in the street. He was a good, hard-working man, but I don't think I made him feel like he was. So she undermined him at every turn and was constantly expressing her discontent with her life. Yeah, I don't think that helped things too much. At 30, Pursley and her ex got divorced. But after 10, I thought she got married at 22. Okay, so they met at 20, dated for 2 years, and they got married. So she was married for about 8 years. But they were together for a total of 10. Okay. She and her ex divorced, and she swore off the idea of marriage. Why? Well, I guess because she really didn't think it was a good fit for her, because people get married to have kids. That's another thing. Marriage is for having kids. I don't understand why anybody would get married if they're not going to have kids, because its sole purpose, the reason it was created, was for the raising of a family. Raising of a family, that means having children. Why would you get married if you're not going to have children? If you don't want to have children, that makes no sense at all. Nobody taught her this, though, right? Yeah, I thought she said her parents were religious. Didn't they go to church? You would have learned that in church, right? Well, maybe not. You got some pastors in churches now that are gay or endorsing the T agenda and all that. So maybe they wouldn't have. Anyway, I told my friends and family I'd never get married again. I needed independence. For what? What does independence give you? Independence gives me independence, to be independent. And why is that necessarily a good thing? And by the way, why aren't you independent if you're married to somebody? Well, their wants and needs and desires are something I have to take into consideration. If I live alone, I don't have to take that into consideration. Well, you should be happy then. You should be thrilled. But instead, as we saw in my last video about you, you're crying and miserable. So apparently that didn't work for you. Yeah, I wanted a fulfilling career and space to chart my own course. I don't know what does that mean? Space to chart my own course, so you can't chart your own course if somebody else is in that space? Well, they have to come into the equation. It wouldn't be my course if they were in the equation. Why not? I don't understand this. This seems like a fallacy to me. I mean, why do people think that they don't have their own course if they're with somebody else? You still have your own course. I don't understand. I don't understand. I didn't think marriage fit into that vision. Oh, vision. It's a vision, sweetheart. Maybe your vision's wrong. I have visions all the time. They're called dreams, and they're not real. And they can't exist in reality many times. A lot of dreams I'm flying around. Does that work in reality? I was content to look forward toward a future without a husband, children, or the trappings of a traditional life, she wrote. Yeah, but what are you going to do? You're not a man. Men can do this. Women really can't. I mean, there's some, rare outliers out there. But show me one of these older broads that's like 80 years old, that was never married, never had kids, that is happy. Show me. Show me one of these broads in her 50s that doesn't have, like, multiple boxes of wine in her pantry, right? And multiple cats in her house, stinks of cat piss. Find me a chick like this. Even that broad that created and wrote S in the City, at 60, she was like, geez, I lived the life that I created in that show. That was my lifestyle, and now I'm miserable. And I have nobody and no kids. And I wish I had made different decisions. I was content to look toward it. Okay, yeah, we read that already. Without the trappings of a traditional life. However, there's a but here. As she grew older, the fun, carefree lifestyle, being wined and dined. And like I said, this video and these pics don't do her justice. And again, in that video, she's crying her eyes out. If you've ever seen a broad after she's been crying for about an hour, it knocks 2 points off her SMV. Okay, so check out that first video I did of her. She's actually a good-looking chick. And that's why she was getting wined and dined. And she has aged very well. She doesn't look 38. I'll give her that. She's clearly taken very good care of herself, watched what she ate, and taken care of her health and, exercise. So she's taking good care of herself. So that delayed the onset of hitting the wall a little while. And again, the wall comes at a different time for different women based upon numerous different factors like the ones I just mentioned. But eventually, you do hit it. She hit it a year and a half ago. Like 36 and a half, 37. At 37, okay, she just turned 39, yeah. So she hit the wall at 37, right? The attention dried up, the validation from men dried up, and that's where she had the epiphany. Interesting how that works. They're being wined and dined, going to parties. At your age, grow up. I mean, you go to parties at 36, 37 years old. You're living the carousel riding, freewheeling, lifestyle at that age. began to get old. You don't say. Trying to fill that gaping chasm, that void within yourself that can only be filled by purpose and fulfillment and meaning and creating some kind of legacy, wasn't being filled by sex, drugs, and booze. Imagine that. Yeah. The pursuit of comfort and self-pleasure became dull. She turned 38. Terror began to take over. That means that the attention dropped off a cliff in a 3 to 6 month period. Like hitting a proverbial wall. It happened very quickly, as it often does with women. Yeah. I was panic-stricken. I really thought that I'm going to be alone forever. I got news for you, sweetheart. You probably are, unless you... And by the way, you're going to see that she does end up somewhat changing her standards, but the outcome's still going to be the same as I predicted. I really thought, so past tense, thought, that should be clear right there, yeah. I thought I was going to be alone forever. Really scared me. I almost wrote the article as sort of a warning to other women. Almost? Yeah. But if she did that, that would be admitting that she was wrong in her life choices, and she couldn't bear to do that, of course. God forbid. I don't want people to miss out on the important things in life because they're just enjoying themselves. Yeah, but you just said you almost wrote it as like a cautionary tale, meaning you didn't. What changed? But now you just contradicted yourself, saying you don't want people to miss out on the important things in life by just pursuing pleasure for its own sake. So which is it? Because I don't think that's ever going to really make you happy. Okay, whatever. This chick's not a very good writer. Very lacking in self-awareness. She didn't see that she just contradicted herself there. With her use of tenses. But anyway, let's continue. She wrote in the article how she felt urgency to find a stable relationship and was rethinking about wanting marriage and children. Yeah, because she knows that the only way she's going to get a stable relationship with a man, because that's what men seek out stable relationships for, is a family. Meaning kids. That's why she changed her mind about kids. It's getting very old. And she's not getting the attention and validation she wants anymore. The butterflies aren't there anymore. Her drug abuse, her abuse of the drug of the fee-fees, of validation and attention and cheap, meaningless sex. But it felt good with the big chads. Those big chads are no longer hitting her up in her Instagram DMs, and they're not responding nearly as much to her swaps right. So it's like, uh-oh, where am I going to get my fix now? Marriage and a family. Yeah. Yeah. And she's been chasing the marriage and the long-term relationship all this time. Don't think she hasn't been. She wanted one of those hot chat dudes, Tyrone guys to wife her up. It's never going to happen. Especially if you're not going to have kids with them, can't have kids with them. And they weren't going to have kids with you because you can't have kids because you were too old at even after the age of 30. And you didn't want kids at that point. You just wanted to get married, have a relationship, long-term relationship, marriage. But those dudes are banging and clanging just for fun with young chicks, so they're not going to get married anyway. Why would they? Because the kind of guys that you're after are the top 5% of dudes. And those top 5% of dudes, they never settle down. Or if they eventually do settle down, it's not going to be with you. Because you don't want kids. And by the time you do want kids, you're too old for kids. And even if you could have kids, there's younger, hotter broads available. So why would they choose you? So anyway, I hardly recognized myself, she wrote in an article. I began to feel selfish. You weren't. As I said in my last video, it's not selfishness. You're misguided. Selfishness is doing those things that actually serve your self-interest, not having children and pursuing pleasure for its own sake over a family and meaning and fulfillment and legacy actually has the opposite effect and doesn't fulfill you. It doesn't play into your self-interest. It doesn't contribute to your well-being. It detracts from it. So you weren't being selfish. You were being misguided. For spending so much time focusing solely on myself, my very existence started to feel shallow and hollow. That's because it was. That feeling was correct. It's so fascinating to me how women ignore these feelings for so long, even though they claim to be so in touch and in tune with their feelings. Yeah. In retrospect, personally believe she had some self-discovery and work for herself to do. Yeah, you don't have much time, honey. So she took, what, a year and a half? At the age of 37? Oh my goodness. Yeah, you got no time to waste, honey, but you're wasting time. And it took time to sort through previous trauma. What trauma? That self-induced trauma. You spent... You got divorced at 30. You spent like 8 years chasing the hot Chad dude from the age of 30. Yeah, I mean, by the way, when she entered carousel land and single dating land and the grass is always greener on the other side, hoe phase land, she was already 30. So that automatically exempted her from the consideration of any of the dudes she wanted. Because they know 90% of her eggs are dead. And they can also get 22-year-olds. So the only time they're going to get with you, honey, is, whatever other space plates they're spinning are busy. And then they contact you. And she can't even get that anymore. So her parents' divorce, please. Your parents' divorce does not cause trauma, okay? When did they get divorced? When you were a kid? 20 years ago? Grow up. Grow the heck up, honey. 20 years ago, plus your mommy and your daddy got divorced. You can't use that as some kind of trauma, as some kind of excuse to exempt yourself from responsibility. She's blaming her parents. She's blaming feminism. She's blaming everybody but herself. Her parents' divorce, which she described as coming from a broken home. I want to know when they got divorced, right? Was she a teenager? Was she already an adult? And even if I came from a broken home, my parents got divorced. This was a heck of a long time ago. It didn't traumatize me. Oh, right, women are more sensitive. Yeah. Are they? I don't know about that. Anyway, it took time to heal and sort through. What? You were married. You had a husband for 8 years. You were with him for 10. Don't most women use like their boyfriend / husband as like an unpaid therapist? Because men are more logical, men are more reasonable, men are more rational, men are more critical in their thinking because they're less emotional, so they can be more detached, hence they're going to see things more clearly. Why didn't you just talk to him about this stuff? You were married to the dude for a long time, and he was a hardworking guy, religious guy, so he had a very practical background, a very practical work life, so he probably could have helped you with your issues. I mean, why didn't you deal with this stuff sooner? Chick, she's so emblematic of modern day women, it's not even funny. She could become the new Amy Horton. For sure. Yeah, it took time to heal and sort through to find out what she really wanted. At 30... Lady, if you don't know what you want at 39, what the hell have you been doing for the past 38, 39 years? You don't know what you want at 39? Don't you think you maybe wasted a little too much time having fun? What else were you doing? Working on my career. What was your career again? It couldn't have really been all that important, right? I don't get this. Who waits until the age of 30? You have these issues in your teens and early 20s. You spend a lot of time, waste a lot of time, and you were married for 10 years. You couldn't have worked on this stuff then? No, I was busy bitching and moaning and complaining about having to cook his meals and wash his laundry. Yeah. God forbid. Yeah, I have to go cook a meal anyway, so, just making an extra portion, huh? Yeah, you were busy bitching and moaning and complaining and following the usual feminist diatribe, playbook. Yeah. Wasting a lot of time. Anyway, I grew up in a fairly traditional family. My parents were divorced. Who cares? Nobody cares. And I would say that probably had some effect on my feelings about having a family. Yeah, well, you should have worked on that stuff long before you decided to get married. Okay? Long before that. Long before you hit the age of 39. Coming from a broken home. Oh, boo diddly who. don't in many communities in this country, most marriages end in divorce. I mean, in the white, hell, it almost, hell, I think more marriages end in divorce than don't. If you just look at not just first marriages, I mean, first marriages are ridiculous. The real number, the vast majority of first marriages end in the first 10 years. But if you just look at all marriages, first, second, and third, you amalgamate them all together and look, I mean, more than half of all total marriages are ended in divorce. If you look at all marriages, regardless of when they got married or what marriage they're on. So more people get divorced than don't. So, I mean, most people have come from a broken home by that very logic. So, I mean, of course, you could say, well, you know, the divorce rate hasn't been that high for so long that the majority of people came from a broken home. Okay, a lot of people have come from broken homes. You don't see them sitting around bitching and moaning and whining and complaining. Well, we do see some of them hurt, but I don't think most do. You know what would happen if they did that? They would never get on with their lives. And they would never grow as a person like her. Got another chick here in a state of arrested development. Lovely. At one point, she called a man coming over to her in a coffee store who randomly told her not to lose hope that God had a plan for her. That's an interesting pickup line. She recalled a man coming over to her for coffee one day who randomly told her not to lose hope and that God had a plan for her. Did he happen to give her his number? And then a happy turn to Pursley's life arrived, which she describes as the exception and not the rule for women in her age group. Oh, let me guess, this guy resurfaced at some point? Meaning she probably contacted him on social media? Has he been a beta orbiter for all this many years, however long she's, had him since she met him? Shortly after penning the article, she dated a man. Okay. She dated a man who she previously befriended. This is a different guy. Previously befriended? What? So it's not this guy. Well, why did they bring that up then? Was it this guy? If not, who cares? I don't understand. Happy persons or whoa. So I don't get this. Is this the guy, the one that came up to her some time ago in a coffee shop and randomly told her not to lose hope and that God had a plan for her? If not, why bring it up? I take it back. This lady might not be the next Amy Horton. At least she can write passably. This chick, I'm just getting confused here. So that's not the same guy. Anyway. So shortly after penning the article, she dated a man who she previously befriended. Is it the same guy? I don't know. Maybe it is. So she befriended a dude previously? And now they're talking about marriage in the future? So some blue pill beta simp that she wasn't interested in at the time because he didn't give her the tingles, she friend zoned him. And now that she's running out of options and clearly putting on weight, because, she's gotten depressed and upset, and so she's trying to fill that void that she was filling with Chad's with Twinkies and other various pastries. I see. Okay. Because her looks are going at an accelerated rate because of that depression, because of that lack of the, to fill that void that she's now filling with food. Her looks are going at an accelerated rate, and so, yeah, she's now willing to settle. Imagine that. She dished on the details. Oh, please do. Dished. That's apropos. She's dishing on a lot of things lately. Likely ho-hos more than anything else. So it's a guy I've been friends with. Not friends with benefits, just friends, yeah. Women, let me explain something to you. Generally speaking, women friend zone dudes because they're in intense need of validation and attention from men. They're very insecure women. They want to distract themselves as much as possible from themselves and the ramifications of their bad choices. They don't want to think about where they are in their lives. So they always want to have some dude, some beta simp, guy in their Rolodex on their phone that they can call up and chat with. They can take them out for a coffee and make them feel better. Yeah, and these beta dudes, they have no real self-esteem. They don't value themselves very much, so they're more than happy to take you out and try to make you feel better. Yeah. But these bros will never sleep with these guys until they become uber super desperate, let alone consider marrying them. We've always just sort of stayed in touch. Meaning that this guy was like plan D or plan F, like he's on the back burner. He's somebody that I'll occasionally chat with when I'm feeling really, really horrible and have nothing else to do, and I'm just down in the dumps, and nobody else that I want to talk to is available. So then I contact this guy, yeah, who is just so lacking in self-esteem. He's always happy to hear from me. And we did go on one date about a year ago, and I told him, I just want to be friends with you. I called it. What changed? Well, let's see. That cherubic face and the picture that's only from the stomach up might have something to do with it. I.e., she's put on a lot of weight recently. Oh, I love it! After her epiphany that she wanted a traditional life. That's BS. This is major cope. She didn't want a traditional life in her 20s. When she dreamed about what she was missing out on. When she was uber super hot. Maybe an 8.5. And that grass that was green around the other side. She didn't want it for most of her 30s either. It was only when the attention well dried up that suddenly she had that epiphany. Yeah, right. Total BS. This woman's a fake, a fraud. She's so disingenuous. Nothing about her has changed. She's just wanting to lower her standards and pretend that, oh, now I want it. Yeah, now you want that when all the other options that you actually want are no longer available to you. That doesn't count. That's not virtuous. You're a fake, you're a phony, you're a fraud. The realization that he was the one. Oh, yeah. I wonder how much money he makes. Probably not as much as she would like, but he probably does okay. So this was like a plan D, plan F guy, right? And the plan A, plan B. Well, we know the plan A guys didn't work out. Those are the top 5%ers. The plan B's, the top 10%ers. They also don't want you. The plan C, the top 15%ers. They also don't want you. The plan D, the 20%ers. So she's got to settle for a dude in the lower 80 percentile. And we know what the women think about those guys. It hit her like a ton of bricks. Oh, yeah, that ton of bricks is called a wall. That's when it hit her, when she hit that wall that weighed about a ton. Yeah, this guy is the one that God's been preparing for me. Oh, is that why she referenced the guy in the coffee shop years ago, coming up to her and saying that God had a plan for her? Yeah, that sounds like major cope to me, honey. Super duper copium. 1,000 milligrams of pure, unadulterated copium per tablet. It'll cure your coping ills, guaranteed. I've had these relationships since there were so many butterflies, and of course, man, I'm so good. And so many like, oh gosh, checking my phone. Did he text? And I realized that's not love. No, it's not love. Of course it's not love. Of course! But it feels good, doesn't it? It's not boring. You didn't want to be bored. See, you didn't want to be bored because you ladies, when it gets right down to it, you ladies that live this life don't want to be alone with yourselves and your own thoughts. Because if you were, then you might have to look in that deep chasmous well within yourselves and see what the darkness might be hiding. You don't want to see that stuff. You don't want to see that stuff. So you constantly distract yourself with pleasures and distractions, like all those beta male orbiters and these guys that are my A choice, that'll never pick me. That's anxiety. I never knew where I stood with those guys. Yeah, that's because you're a woman. You like the uncertainty, of course. It's not boring. I could never envision a future with those people. BS! Oh, she's lying! You're lying so much. Oh, you're so full of it. I could never imagine a future with that 9 Chad. Yeah, who I was sitting by the phone waiting to text me all night and I cried myself to sleep. But I saw no future with him. What a bunch of garbage. She's such a liar. Yeah, personally said she's looking forward to a modest, meaningful, happy future. You've just been reading R Pill, TradCon, periodicals, books. That's all you've been doing. You've been studying up on the TradCon handbook or something, if there is such a thing. You've been watching your Daily Wire BS. Those controlled opposition shills there trying to sucker guys into a bad business deal. That's all you've been doing. You've just been learning what you think are the proper catchphrases and talking points that'll make you seem like a convincing marriage material female. Get out of here. Anyway, moving into my future. She's also writing this article just in case it doesn't work out with Mr. Plan F. or Plan G guy. She has fully virtue signaled her availability and her total 180 conversion to the world. I am now a TradCon woman. Read this article, date and marry me. Moving into my future, I'm not going to be traveling. Yeah, that's another thing women like to do as they age in their carousel riding years, which are now extending into their 60s and even 70s, something I'm going to have to make a video about very soon. They love to travel. There's pleasure in traveling. Anything that provides pleasure of any kind, women just latch on to, man. Yeah, at least single ones that don't have families, of course. More often than not, the seeking of pleasure is to take the place of meaning and fulfillment and some kind of legacy, which is where the meaning comes from. Oftentimes, okay? Whether it be having sex with a partner that you love, that you produce children with, to essentially get that recommitment to them on a hopefully at least thrice a week basis, or, just spending time with your kids and family, or traveling with your family, which would be the point of traveling, to experience things with your family, not just by yourself. It's always to take the place, always as a fill-in for anything real and meaningful. Yeah, I'm not going to have a lot of extra money. Yeah. You'll have more than you do now, though, right? Because now you're going to have his income, too. I'm not going to be going out for fancy dinners, and I'm okay with that. Well, then you'll have more money, right? What are you talking about? Oh, you think you're going to have kids. She thinks she's going to have a family at 39. Lady, then again, maybe this guy's got to be some kind of beta simp, pushover, pant-load loser, if he's going to get with her and marry her because she's 39. And talk about having a family. What universe? The amount of money you're going to need for in vitro fertilization. I guess that's why she's saying she won't have much money. It's going to cost you everything you've got and everything he's got just to get one good kid out of you. And we don't even know how good that kid is going to be, considering it's coming from a 39-year-old woman. And I'm assuming you didn't freeze your eggs at 25, so they're 39-year-old eggs. Holy moly. Holy cow. Wow. If this woman is actually able to have kids, she's not going to be able to have them naturally. And I'd love to see these kids in a few years. Well, this single kid. Yikes. Oh, boy. I'm imagining Forrest Gump, Down syndrome, that guy from the Goonies, Chunks, that friend he made, remember that movie, The Goonies, and the bad guys that were chasing them to try and get the treasure, and then that woman that was part of that horrible gang, Sloth, the kid that got dropped on his head by the mom. I'm imagining Sloth, if this woman ever has any kids. I would love to see this kid if it ever actually comes into existence. Should be a very interesting story to follow in the future. And I'm sure she'll let us know about it, because this woman is just loving the attention and validation, which proves she's changed not a lick. So she's like, I won't have a lot of extra money. I'm not going to be going out for fancy dinners. Yeah, we read that. I'm okay with that, and I'm ready for that. I think that what's really going to make me happy, that's what's really going to make me, what's really going to make you happy? Not going out for fancy dinners or having extra money or not traveling? I don't get it. What? Moving into my future, I'm not going to be traveling, making extra money, or going out for fancy dinners. And I think that's going to make me happy. Doesn't make any sense. Moving on. Oh my God, I'm so done just making myself happy. You're not going to have those kids that you think you're going to have, unless this guy has a lot of money. Because I don't imagine this woman with her partying and whining and dining herself and living this high life in the city, which costs a lot of money, that she has enough put aside for in vitro and fertilization, which is exactly what she's going to need, lots of cashola, to have any kids. She's going to need a lot of outside doctoral assistance. A lot of doctors are going to need to poke and prod at this chick to have her have any kids. You think you're happy when you're doing all these things to make yourself happy. I don't think you really are. It's the relationships that make you happy. Well, if that was true, you should be the happiest woman on earth. You had a lot of relationships, right? You just got it wrong again. It's building something. Yes, there you go. Not the relationship that brings happiness, brings meaning. It's the building something with another person. By the way, you had that. You had that at 22. I didn't appreciate it, though. And why are you going to appreciate it now? I'm telling you, this ain't going to work out. People don't change. This guy's going to find out very soon that he's with just damaged goods. It's too much damage. Too many guys have went through her. You want to talk about trauma? That's her real problem. Too many bodies, too much trauma, too much baggage. It's creating a life with another person. Yeah. She's hitting all of the TradCon talking points to make herself seem like she's changed. And of course, it's really to try and convince herself, right? Having goals and plans with another person. Yeah. Talking the talk is one thing, honey. Walking it is a much different thing. It's making other people happy. No. Now, see, this is how you know she's not changed, because it's not about making other people happy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're way off. You're wrong. It doesn't work that way. Making people you love happy. No, you can't make other people happy. What? See? She doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She's just, see, I was right. She's just prattling off catchphrases and talking points and things she's heard in videos or read in books, TradCon books. Yeah, I watched Ben Shapiro. He said this stuff. It sounds good. I'll use it. Yeah. Making other people you love happy. First of all, you can't make other people happy. All right? It's that simple. That's not how happiness actually works. So you can't make them happy. They have to make themselves happy. Even if it's in your presence, nothing they do is going to make you happy. You could say it might be contributive in a sense, but it doesn't really work the way she's presenting it. So she doesn't even know how happiness works. It's making other people happy, making people you love happy. That's happiness. No, so you're wrong, you're way off, so it's going to fail. You're not going to be happy. I really don't think I will know true happiness until I'm in that place. Aren't you in that place right now? You're with a guy that you claim that you love and talking about marriage and a family. Shouldn't you already be happy? See, this is the thing. The reason I know she's full of S and I know that this isn't going to work is because I know how to be happy, how you find happiness, don't actually find it, how to be happy, how to have happiness, right? I know how. And it's not this. Things, people can't bring happiness. So this is how I know that this will not work out and it will not give her the happiness she thinks it will bring her. Anyway, and of course this right here, I really don't think I will know true happiness until I'm in that place. You're already in that place right now and you're not happy because you just said, I'll know true happiness when I'm in that place, but you're already in that place and you're not happy because you said, I will be happy when I'm in that place, meaning you're not happy yet. When are you going to be happy? See, she's expecting certain things to happen in a certain order, and if those things happen, then that'll make her happy, but it doesn't work like that. I feel, and by the way, I did make a video years and years ago. You have to go back through hundreds of videos to find it on my channel about happiness. I suggest you check it out. I feel unbelievably betrayed by feminism. Do you? Or are you just saying that because it's a good talking point and to virtue signal to certain men on the right? Yeah, the D and the oh yeah, the D roster guys, D, E, F roster, yeah. And I don't want to put it on the movement entirely because I believe you make your own choices. Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't need to read that. Anyway, she goes on to say, I feel like I'm in a much different place now, except you're not. You're just coping. And I'm so ready for that now, but you're not. Because you have an expectation that doing these things, achieving these things, getting these things will give you happiness. It won't. You have to already be happy. You're not happy with yourself. Why do you think that you're going to be happy with someone else? And why do you think things or other people, when introduced into your orbit, are going to make you happy when you can't make anyone happy? I understand what the sacrifice of marriage is. Okay, they're not really, because you were married and you didn't want to sacrifice in that marriage and you resented your husband and you didn't really sacrifice in that marriage. You wouldn't even have kids with him. So you really don't know what the sacrifice of marriage is about because you didn't sacrifice in your prior marriage. And what the beauty of marriage is now, oh, you understand it now when it's too late and you have no other options. You know, there's no real virtue in a choice when you don't have any others, right? Like it's not really virtuous to resist temptation if there's no temptation. It's not really impressive to me to, you pass a test when there's no test to be passed, right? There's no choice to be, there's no, I make choice A, B, so there's just A. Oh, the test only has one option? Where's the difficulty? Where's the achievement? Oh, none. And I don't think I appreciated what family means for a long time. Yeah. I don't think I truly understood, she said during the interview. I don't care if I ever put on heels and go to a fancy dinner again. Ah! Is that really true, though? Because what I think is going to happen, she'll get with this guy. She'll very quickly find out that getting these things that she already had before and they didn't work then to make her happy will somehow magically make her happy now, even though it doesn't work that way, so it'll never work. No matter what she's saying here, it doesn't matter what she gets that she thinks she wants, it won't bring happiness. But I don't think that, because that won't work, then she'll probably, see, what she'll then start wanting, because this isn't giving her what she wants in any way, right? Temporarily or otherwise, at least before, riding the carousel and swiping right and feeling anxious and uncertain about the chatty chads getting back to her, at least then she was getting some pleasure, right? At least she was getting some momentary morsel of feeling of what fulfillment might be, but in a tiny, very, 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 very temporary way. This, I'm getting nothing. Long term, nothing. Right. So, then she'll start longing for the carousel again. The grass will be looking pretty good. The grass that you claim to have run away from. And then you'll try to go back to that probably. And, of course, you won't be happy with that either, because the truth of the matter is happiness doesn't come from people, places, or things. It's a certain mindset and a certain way of viewing the world and living your life that is not in any way, shape, or form, does not in any way, shape, or form conform to the way she's approaching things. And that's how I know that this relationship will fail. She's not going to get what she wants. And even if she does get a kid, that kid is going to end up being raised by a single mother. Anyway, and I feel sorry for this schlub, by the way, that she's getting with. This beta orbiter male that she said she had no romantic interest in, but all of a sudden, woo-hoo-hoo, she wants to marry him, and he's such a pathetic loser, and we know he's a pathetic loser because he's willing to marry her and consider having kids with her. He couldn't be a winner if that's the case, so who out there thinks she's actually going to be happy with a guy like that even with all this copium that she is spewing forth. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Is this new relationship that she is writing this story about to let us know about and humble brag about is actually going to work? Or do you think it's going to go down in flames as I have predicted? Let me know what you think in the comment section. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I need the subscriptions, okay? And give me a like. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Leave a comment. It helps the algorithm. And also don't forget to follow me on all tech platforms. Rumble, BitChute. I am on both of those as the Realist Philosopher. So go follow me there. And also consider, I know, times are hard. So that's why, anything you could spare, if you would consider donating to my Patreon, would be greatly appreciated. You also find that at the top of the screen. I am the Realist Philosopher on Patreon as well. So consider making a donation there and following me there, becoming a patron. Anyway, I am the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher, and I wish you all a good and pleasant day. Take care.